All right, so for today's episode, I wanted to do something a little bit different. I've been doing a lot of clickbait, rage bait style videos lately, so I wanted to be a little bit more educational today. And what I wanted to talk about today is the importance of savings and also planning for retirement, even at a young age. I think as soon as you turn 20, hopefully I reach some 20-year-olds with this, but as soon as you turn 20, you should start planning for retirement. And if even if you're 35, 40, you should still start planning for retirement too. But let's just get into it because I wanted to go over some examples, and also I wanted to start and speak on some points and some goals that I think I you should have. Which, if you keep these principles and these goals in mind, it'll make it much easier for you to obtain the later examples that I'm talking about. So first off, let's get into it. So goals you should have if you're a single man, even if you're a single woman. And well, you might think, well, why should I, plan about plan for retirement? You can't predict tomorrow. AI is going to take over, yada yada yada, right? Well, I think for one, maybe if AI takes over, that might be a thing. But why would you not have a plan at least? Because what happens if it doesn't, right? You can't just make excuses based on future predictions, like things in the future which you can't predict. And although you might say, yeah, well, we can't predict the market, we can't, but we can historically, you can kind of there has been consistent upward growth in the stock market and consistent like a 7 to 8% interest rate. So, but first off, so let's get into why you should even start thinking about retirement now. So let's look at the life expectancy for the United States. So let's get into that. If I can spell expectancy, United States. All right, here we go. So for one, the thing is, in the United States, the average person is going to live to almost 80. So, yeah, I mean, if you're a young person, here's the thing. More than likely, unless you like jump off a bridge or something, which most people don't because humans are not programmed to kind of do that, you're going to live to be 80 years old. So that's why. So think about it, right? If you're young, your body's fresh, your back is good, your joints are good, you don't want to be that old person that's living off of, however much the Social Security check is monthly. How much is Social Security? Social Security monthly payment average. I think it's like $1,200 a month. Yeah, it's not bad. $2,000 a month. That's not too bad. You get $2,000 a month, but at the same time, they also limit how much you can make in order to receive these benefits. So while theoretically $2,000 a month sounds good, there's a limit to how much you can make from combining job income and Social Security. So let's look at SSI and employment. So you can receive benefits and have a job, but your earnings may affect your benefits. So for Social Security, your benefits will decrease $1 for every $2 you earn. So if you start making $1,000, you're going to see your benefits decrease $500. So you see what I'm getting at. So if you make $2,000, like it's like a cap of three grand if you try to combine SSI and employment. And so if you want to live off $3,000 and you think that sounds like reasonable, which it could be. I guess you could work a part-time job and collect SSI, but I just think there's a better way, and what I'm going to show you to plan for your retirement rather than completely like depending on $3,000 or less. Because think about it, if you don't have any savings and how inflation in the economy is going, $3,000, you might be living paycheck to paycheck, but you're just going to be sitting in an apartment or, a house or whatever until you die. When if you're older, you could have some savings based on this thing that I'm going to show you. So, oh, also for one, I'm not a financial advisor, so I think I have to like legally say that because yeah, I don't have any, but anyway, this is just knowledge I've accumulated and things like that I'm sharing with you. So, take everything with a grain of salt, do your own research, but we're going to get into it right now. So, again, life expectancy in the US being 80 years. So a lot of y'all are going to make it to 80. So you should start planning for these things now. So let's go into goals that you should have and what I think that you should do in if you focus on these things, it's going to make it much easier for you to obtain these numbers and figures that I'm going to show you here in a second. So first off, the goals you should have. I think you should try to make at least $80,000 a year, depending on where you're living. Obviously, I live in the South. I live in Houston, Texas, so our economy is a little bit different. Like in Texas, we have high property tax, but we don't have income tax. So keep in mind, this might not be a one-size-fits-all solution, but hey, maybe you can move to a state where they don't have income tax and move where the cost of living is more affordable for you, because these things are kind of based off of the economy of where I live. but they still, I know they can apply to people that are in certain areas of the United States as well. I know maybe if you're in New York or in California, this might be a little bit more harder for you because I know cost of living there is quite higher. But anyway, so goals you should have: make at least $80,000 a year. You can research. I think if you start focusing on that number in particular, you're going to come into and you start researching how to make 80 grand a year. That's how you're going to find those jobs that pay that, so truck drivers with experience, plumbers, which it takes you like 4 to 5 years to become a plumber, but again, skilled labor there. I think there's always going to be a need for skilled labor, working on oil rigs, which is kind of dangerous but pays pretty well. Becoming a nurse, um, electricians, things like that. Maybe trying to become a manager, restaurants, whatever. But anyway, you should make it your goal to make at least $80,000 a year. And the next thing, you should try to save at least $2,000 a month. And I'm going to show you why you should, because the retirement plan that I'm going to show you is called a Roth IRA. And so we're going to discuss how with just 500 bucks a month, you can save up like over $1 million based on the interest that you will accrue with a Roth IRA. So if you save at least $2,000 a month, one, you can use a fraction, right? So was that a quarter? 500? Yeah. You can use a quarter of your savings every month to plan for retirement, and you can still have money to play around with. But, for me, I'm a financially savvy and a frugal person, so I don't really care for going out, spending, stupid amounts of money on vacations and cruises and cars. And I think that, a lot of things, this is what a rational, smart person's how they should live their life. Because if you can have your bare necessities, right? Advertising in the media has kind of indoctrinated us into becoming consumers, where we think that in order for us to be happy and in order for us to have a high quality of life, like we need to be purchasing things all the time and doing these things. But think about it, right? Like a Carnival cruise, they have, in these cruise lines, they have basically indoctrinated you through advertising, right, into thinking that you should go on a cruise or two every year because it's fun. I mean, yeah, maybe once in a while vacations are fun, right? But at the same time, like, you don't need to be buying the fancy car. You don't need to be buying expensive houses that you can't afford, right? Like if you're a single person or you have a wife, why do you need a 5 bedroom, bath house and have a $3,000 a month mortgage? It doesn't make any sense. So that goes into my next point, which is to live below your means. Spend no more than $3,000 to $3.5 thousand a month. And this is very attainable. I mean, if you can get a cheap car, you can get an apartment normally that you can live in. That's a nice apartment for less than 1,500 bucks, 1,600 bucks. Then all you have, if you're in a car note, okay, well, yeah, just pay it off or get a cheaper car, and I'll kind of go over some examples with budgets on a calculator here in a second. But live below your means. If you spend less than 3,500 bucks a month and you make $80,000 a year, let's go into that next. Where's it at? Yeah. So this is going to be an income calculator. So let's just do, if you're 1, 2, 3, calculate. Okay. So yeah, if you make $80,000 a year, you have $64,000 after tax income, which is a little over $5,000 a month. So if you're spending $3,000 a month, now you have that excess of $2,000 with the $80,000 a year salary. And if $2,000 is a good goal. Let's say, I know 80,000 might be hard, but I think 60,000 is attainable, at least 60, but again, at least 80 should be your ultimate goal. Right here you have $50,000 after tax income, so you have about $4,000 a month of excessive income. And in this scenario, if you're spending $3,000, you have $1,000. But again, that's why you need to be trying to set your sights on getting this $80,000 a year income, right? You get this $80,000 a year income, you have $5,000 $5,000 a month, and you can, if you're living off 3, right? So let's go into the example. So if you live off $3,000, let's say your apartment, if you're single, if you have a girlfriend or something, you can split this, so this can be a little bit less. Let's say you have a $1,500 a month apartment, and then let's say you do have a car payment, right? So let's say hopefully you're less than 400 bucks on your car payment. Then you probably need about 400 for food, because if you're eating out all the time, that's something that you need to control. But if you buy groceries, 100 bucks of groceries, like at the store right now, I know 5 pounds of chicken is $10. A sack of potatoes is 5 pounds of potatoes is like $4. So, tomatoes are 98 cents a pound. You can eat good if you just learn to cook and you buy groceries yourself instead of eating out every day. So we're with food here. All right, 2,300. We have the car payment. We also need full coverage insurance. So we'll say that 2,500. Let's say you maybe have some credit card debt. Maybe you need let's see, some miscellaneous. We'll add miscellaneous in there. Maybe you have like subscriptions. So yeah, you see that 3,000 to 3,500 bucks is obtainable for you to live under. And a lot of times you just need to control your impulses and control what you're purchasing in order to obtain this. And you can still have a nice apartment. And if you pay off your car, we can take away the full coverage insurance. We can take away the car payment if you pay off your credit card. So I mean, you could get this number under 2,500 bucks, right? And if you're making $5,000 a month, now you have $2,500 of excessive income. So let's go. Yeah, again, avoid buying new expensive cars. Um, a lot of the music and a lot of the advertising and marketing has been catered to young people in order to make them think that like cars are a status symbol, but it's really just like advertising propaganda. So cars are not a status symbol. The point of a car is to get you from point A to point B. So if it's like, why would you spend $45,000 to get to work when you can spend $15,000 to get to work? It really doesn't make sense. And hey, avoid buying expensive homes with expensive mortgages. If you can spend $1,500 on a property or your living situation, why spend $3,500 just so you can have more space? And if you can, like, then this is my next point: be content. Like, you need to really learn how to be content with life. Like, for thousands and thousands of years, we didn't have the things that we were having, right? Just you being able to hear my voice right now is an insane phenomenon. For thousands of years, human beings were living to be like 20 years old, and life was just suffering. It was just, we need to eat, we need to find food, disease, animals, the elements, dying of exposure, cold and heat. And so now we have like air conditioning. So it's like we live in an amazing time. So if you can just appreciate how amazing like being alive is compared to the thousands and thousands of years that humans, like, life just sucked. I mean, if you're in America right now, there's a great chance, and obviously this doesn't apply to everyone, but if you're in like a suburban or you're in a city in America, there's a pretty good chance that you're living the highest quality of life that has been achieved in human history possible. So that goes back to being content, right? Like, you don't need to let these brands and these marketers indoctrinate you into stressing and living above your means and always having to make sure that your job is secure and always like needing to make $5,000-$6,000 a month just so you can have a car, be content, because this is how you set yourself up. That way you don't have to work your entire life. Because think about it, when if you don't plan this out, if you're in your 20s or in your 30s or 40s and you don't start planning and thinking about the next 20 years, the next 30, 40 years, your body's going to start breaking down. Like myself, I'm already having back problems and I'm not even 30. And I'm like, crap, like if this gets any worse, like I got to start doing this stuff now. So anyway, let's talk about a Roth IRA, because Roth IRA, you might not be familiar with it, but what it is it is a tax-free investment account that you can, that's very popular. Research it yourself, but basically it consistently will get you like 5 to 6% interest a year. It's tax-free. So basically, like with other forms of investments like index funds, mutual funds, things like that, you have to pay taxes if you withdraw. But there's a couple conditions that actually your Roth IRA is tax-free as long as you're at least 59 and a half years old and have had the account for at least 5 years. So if you're 50, that's why you set this up, and over the long term, 30, 40 years, you can start taking out this money and you're saving, 25% in capital gains, right? You're saving hundreds of thousands of dollars is what I'm going to show you. And so the Roth IRA does have a max contribution. You can't just put all your money into it. And I wouldn't recommend that anyway. Roth IRA contribution limits. So the max you can put into a Roth IRA every year is like $7,000. Yeah. So it's $7,000 if you're under the age of 50 and $8,000 if you are 50 or older. So, but let's get into it. And let me show you an example of, because again, this is going back to saving at least $2,000 a month. And hey, if this is hard for you, $1,500, $1,500, but man, I think you should really at least be trying to save $2,000 a month. And this is why. So if you just, and again, let's go back to this example. So if you save at least $2,000 a month and you live below your means, you'll have extra money to play around with still. I'm not saying you can have fun, you can book some cruises and stuff. But again, if you just, you know, take a little time and think about, delay your gratification. I know a lot of people in their 20s, they don't think straight and they want to have like fun now. But I think from the time you're 20 to 40, 20 to 45, that's when you should be grinding, because that's the prime years of your life when your body's going to work the best. And it might sound old and it might sound boring and it might sound traditional, and yeah, AI might kill us all. So who knows, right? But again, like, I think it's okay to plan and think ahead and be thinking about your future, regardless of what happens, right? Because if that AI stuff, it's all out of our control, right? So at the very least, if it doesn't happen, you're going to be set up for the future. So again, let's just do the math, and I'm going to show you what you can do and how powerful it is if you just start setting aside $500 a month. So if you are saving $2,000 a month, you can set aside $500 a month for your retirement and still have $1,500. And if you want to blow it all, that's cool. But hey, man, I think if you're at least contributing $500 a month into the Roth IRA, things are going to be good for you. So let's start from zero, right? Our annual contribution, because we're doing $500 a month, it's going to be $6,000 a year, right? So our expected rate of return normally, let me look up because it's about 6%. So Roth IRA interest average return, average interest rate. All right. So Roth IRA average interest rate, I believe it's like 5-6%. Yeah, historically it's between 7 to 10%. So yeah, I'm gonna use a lower number. I'm gonna use 6%. Let's use 5%. Let's use 5. Well, I'll show you 5 and 6%. So we're starting at zero. We're doing $500 a month, so $6,000 a year. You're 25. Let's say you want to retire at 65. Let's calculate that. How much money you would have. So again, this is just setting aside $500 a month. By the time you're 65, that number that you've set aside for your retirement is going to be $724,000. And look, you only invested $240,000. This is your principal, which is the initial amount that you invested. So you were able to double your money, right? Or I guess triple technically, because you gained 400. Oh no, because you put 240, double that, got double the interest. Anyway, you see what I'm saying? You earned $490,000 of interest, right, off of $500. And so again, when we're going back to Social Security, the max you can really make if you're collecting Social Security is like $3,000 a month with a job. So if you're 65 and you have at least 15 years left of life in you, right? Let's go back to this calculator. And you have $765,000, and you divide that by 15, you have $51,000 a year that you can spend. You divide that by 12. Yeah, so you have a little bit more leeway. You might not need to work. You can get $4,200 a month there that you have, and that's only with $500 a month, right? So yeah, I mean, why would you not do this? And that's with 6%. This is the low rate. That was a 5%. If you get 6% and you're 25, now you have $1 million, right? You put 240, and I'll do 10%. Just who knows? I like to estimate things to be lower. So let's do 10%, right? You're getting 10% a year. Now you have $2.7 million. See what I'm saying? So worst case scenario with the Roth IRA, let's say you only get 5%. You're getting $490,000 of interest, and over 40 years, you have set aside $724,000 for your retirement. And keep in mind, these things will still earn interest every year. So you can, what's the number on that? So let's say 724,000 for 3 times 0.05. You'll get, is that true? Is that 50? No, that's right. Yeah. You'll get $36,000 a year just in interest. So you could maybe even live off the interest. And if that's 10% a year, then that's $72,000 a year. So let's go through some more hypothetical situations. So yeah, again, worst case scenario, you're getting 5% a year. And then, so you're getting $36,000 of interest every year that you can live off of. Best case scenario, you're getting $2.6 million. You're earning $2 million in interest. And 5% of that would be, let's do the math on that real quick. What was that number again? 2.6556555. All right. So 2,655,000. It's kind of a big number. 655, right? That's all right. Times 0.05. you're getting $132,000 of interest if it gets 5%, and then obviously you're getting $262,000 a year if it's at 10%. So again, this is if you start at 25. So let's go through example of 35, worst case scenario here. Right. You'll have at 10%, you'll have $1 million if you're saving for 30 years. And if you start this at 45, you'll still double your money off the interest. You'll have $300,000. But again, this is why you need to start doing these things early. And this, again, this is only with $500 a month. So you can be going to the club and blowing that other $1,500 that I was talking about while still setting yourself up for retirement. And let's go through the worst case scenario. If you get 5%. So yeah, if you start at 45 and you retire at 65, you'll have 198,000 off of, again, so you're not allowing your money to compound enough here. And then you go 10%, you'll have 300,000 at 45, and then we'll do it one more time at 35, and then I'll get out of that. So 10%, again, $1 million, gained $800,000 of interest. Your total principal, you only put $180,000 into it. And if you do 5%, right, your total interest $224,000, principal of $180,000. So it's just like, it's like free money in a sense, you know. And so you might say, well, what are the risks of the Roth IRA? Well, the Roth IRA is kind of just attached to the market, right? And so let's look at the stock market. So let's look at the S&P 500. S&P 500 historical data. Because there's a lot of people that are like, man, the stock market is risky. Like, it can crash, it can go down. But in general, the stock market really only goes up, and it's because like the S&P 500 is the 500 largest companies in America. And so if you invest in the S&P 500, what's going to happen is the money is always only going to be in the largest 500 companies. So if a company goes bankrupt, it falls out of the 500, and those shares will get sold and put into it. And since it's just like the American economy, and these are your biggest companies, they're always making money. The market's always going up because they're always earning a profit. So like if Walmart's still selling groceries, if Home Depot is still selling supplies, if Johnson & Johnson is still selling toilet paper, right? People need these things. The market will keep going up. So let's go S&P 500 price over time. Trying to find a good, see, I need a chart though. Where's the charts at? Bear with me. Well, maybe I can just do chart. Chart. Sorry, I was riffing here, so let's chart trading view. See what happens here. All time. All right, yep. Here we go. Great. So this is the S&P 500 all time from trading view. So if you look at, let's go to, I mean, you can just see that's a nice little upward graph there. I mean, I'll go through, let's go through 1999. It has 5x since the last 30 years, since 1985. You know, I'm not going to do the math on that. It's 6,000 points now, is 179 points. Let's do the Dow Jones historical graph. That's another one. Historical chart. 100 years of the Dow Jones. Great. This is what I needed. First time. See, look, Dow Jones, 100 years, right? So we're talking about the Great Depression. All right, so the Great Depression was in what, like the 1930 something, right? This was the Great Depression. It did plummet, right? It dropped like 10x, but then if you just bought, and it was 1932, you buy the dip, you could have already almost 5x your money. And obviously this was the 30s, so it's a little bit different. But yeah, I mean, the Dow Jones started at what, 79 points. It's now at 33,000, 40,000 points. So if you look in the last, like, the 50s, it was at 200 points. Now it's at 44,000. So if you had $1 in it, it's gone up whatever the number 44,000 divided by 500 is. So if you're putting your money in the Dow Jones, August 1983, and this is why the rich get richer, because look, they're multiplying their money. So your money is 40x in the Dow Jones, because it's gone up 40 times since the 80s, right? So again, yeah, markets tend to just keep going up because the economy keeps going, people are born, and yeah, I mean, the market could go down. I don't really see a place in here where it's gone down in the last 100 years. I mean, obviously you had like, what, 2 years of badness, and then it went back up. But again, this is just because markets go up because consumers buy, like grocery stores, they sell groceries, and this is where all the money is tied up in, right? And so my last point here about, why you should start thinking about these things and planning for these things, let's just go into this example. And let's say you set aside this 500 bucks a month, and then you put your money into the Roth IRA. So let's say you're 30 years old and you start doing this, right? Let's give ourselves a 5% return. So again, by the time you're 65, so let's say you're able to accomplish this $2,000 a month savings that you need, right? So let's say you set aside $1,000 a month, you put 500 into an IRA, and then you just held on to 500 cash, right? So what you're going to have is you're going to have an extra $210,000 as well. So not only will you have $541,000 of the Roth IRA, but if you saved up cash, you have another $210,000 on top of that. So again, it's just thinking about these little things every day. Like, okay, well, what can I do to get 500 bucks a month set aside for retirement? Because if like you need to be planning for your body to be aging. And so again, this is just all my opinion. I'm just kind of sharing some insight with you. I'm gonna call it a day for this episode. I'm gonna try to do more stuff like this. Hopefully you enjoyed this and it benefited you in some way. But if it did, hey, give a like. And this has been the Base Blueprint. Thanks if you did tune in, and have a great day, okay?